Thank you for joining Darien Library this evening for More Than Turkey with David Wagner, Mary Taylor, and Reed Collyer. David Wagner, who owns SipStirs right in downtown Darien, has over 15 years experience in the industry, both as an importer and a wholesale distributor, and now a retailer. David has a wonderful business philosophy and makes sure that he's educated on each of his products. Nothing hits the shelves without his tasting. Treating clients as honored guests defines the business approach of SipStirs. Mary Taylor created Mary Taylor Wine to make wines accessible to everyone. She wants everyone to know that you do not need to be a serious wine expert to experience the kind of honest, authentic wines that the Europeans have been enjoying for centuries. And Reed Collyer, owner of Collyer Catering, has been in the catering industry for over 30 years. Reed believes in handcrafting nearly everything that leaves her kitchen, whether the event is a casual family barbecue or a benefit gala for 600. Reed ensures that she works directly with each client, creating a memorable experience from start to finish. Before we begin, I'd like to mention that programs at Darien Library are made possible by the annual Friends of the Library campaign. We thank you for your support to make programs like this, as well as our collections, available to the community. And I think that Reed is going to start us off this evening.
Gonna try my best. Thank you, Pat. So I figure we should get the elephant in the room out of the way quickly and talk about the government mandate that we not entertain groups that are larger than 10 for the holidays. It's kind of a blow to families and friends everywhere. But I guess if we have to be safe, we have to be safe. So on to the fun stuff, because holidays can still be fun. I firmly believe that there's a way to make it work and a way to make it joyful, no matter what the restrictions are. So I just have a list of ideas, and then I would love to take questions if anybody has them, or make suggestions if anybody wants to have a discussion. So if you have a favorite dish that someone in your family brings to your house every year, why not set up a Zoom and make it side by side the day before the holiday or the day of the holiday, and then do a tasting and see if it comes out exactly the same. It's a fun way to keep the family in the holiday and keep everybody engaged and together, even if you can't be in the same room or the same house. So that's one kind of fun thing. You could even bake pies side by side. Do you usually host a holiday meal with out-of-towners? Oh, I already said that. Try making them side by side. Another idea, and this is not necessarily pertaining to Thanksgiving, do a Zoom call with an extended group of friends that you haven't seen in years. Everybody make their own appetizer and sit around and have a great glass of wine and something that you've crafted in your own kitchen, and share stories and catch up. I think we're very lucky to live in an era of technology where we can have this face-to-face interaction, even if we can't give each other hugs in public. So if holidays in your house are all about tradition, but you can't travel this year, do something totally different. Don't have a turkey, have a filet. Maybe you hate turkey and you just make it in your house every year because everybody expects it. Amanda actually mentioned earlier she might do turkey tacos, which I think sounds like a great idea. It's less fuss, it's a lot less preparation and stress, and it just kind of throws the holiday on its head and makes it something different, but focuses on a meal and a gathering, even if it's just with your immediate family. So talking about turkey, I've had a number of clients and a number of friends say to me, I never make the turkey. My mom makes the turkey. My grandma makes the turkey. I just can't wrap my head around how to cook a turkey. It's not that overwhelming. Turkey is not a difficult thing to take on. The toughest part of it is defrosting and allowing enough time for that. And if you have a small group in your house and you still want that smell, which we all love on a holiday, you can always do a turkey breast. It doesn't have to be the whole bird, and a turkey breast is easy to manage and gives you the good part of the leftovers, and makes the house smell really good. So that's an idea. And they're readily available at a regular grocery store. It's not even something you have to special order in advance of the holiday. Why not do a recipe swap of your favorite hors d'oeuvres and then make them and deliver them to each other? If you're lucky enough to live in a neighborhood like I do, where we tend to make things happen as our extended pod, that's something that would be so easy to do. Everybody pick a recipe out of a hat, everybody make it, and then deliver your finished product to all your neighbors. Again, you're interacting, you're celebrating, but you're not in the same room together, and you're not, having the concern about transmission and COVID that we're all concerned about at this point. You still want to have people at your house for the holidays or Christmas or whatever it is that you do to celebrate the wonderful month of December. Do it outside. Tell everybody that they need to bundle up, that you'll have a fire. You can get a fire pit from a friend, or you can go to Lowe's and pick one up yourself. But have everybody gather, do hot chocolate and have schnapps and everything else for people to add in. And again, it can be individual families gathering at your house, but staying within their respective pod and still staying safe, but enjoying what the season is all about, which is coming together and celebrating. If I'm running too fast, someone tell me to slow down.
You're fine.
Okay. So here's another idea. If you still want to have that group of 10 really close friends at your house and you feel comfortable having them, hire a bartender. Hire a bartender to come into your house and craft some amazing cocktails. Make sure everybody's taking an Uber home. But just take it up a notch. Have that level of service, but with a smaller group, and take advantage of a bartender's knowledge. There are lots of them that are looking for work right now, so I don't think you'd have a problem hiring one for the holidays. Another idea, and this actually parlays into you, David, why not do a virtual wine tasting? Connect with your local person, whoever that may be, and
David.
exactly, David. I live in Reading, David, you're a little far for me, but have them select a bunch of wines and then order in hors d'oeuvres and distribute it yourself, or have your friends pick up their box of wine and their box of hors d'oeuvres and then Zoom it all together and do a wine tasting and partnering with food and make it fun and have a discussion. So that was another crazy idea. If you have a garage that is not stuffed full of stuff, open the garage door, bring in a patio heater if you can rent one or borrow one, and have a wreath or a centerpiece making party. Again, everybody can have their own table, everybody can have their own space, but you can be together and create something and have that airflow that they all talk about is important to have. And of course, you can have wine with that too. And I know David would have good ideas for that. Make your friends into your family. I saw this as a tip today when I was looking around for ideas. And we all have those people that we're close with, that we trust are following the same protocols that we are. And if you can't be with your immediate family, make them your family. Have them come to your house and sit outside. And if it can't be on Thanksgiving Day, have it be the next day. I tend to be the eternal optimist in these things, and there's no rules this year except limiting your group to 10. So there's no rules on what the holiday has to be or what the holiday should represent from a food perspective. So change it up a little bit. And last but not least, wow, I went through my list quickly. If you're stuck home for the holidays, why not make enough of whatever you're having on your table and share it with your neighbors? There is nothing better about food than the community it can create. And if it's not your neighbors, find somebody who's alone for the holiday and drop off dinner to them, because that's a nice way to give back. And that's it. Who's got questions?
One person wanted to know if you had a recipe for a hot or a cold beverage.
A recipe for a hot or a cold beverage. Do we have
to share?
Do we have a basis that we're working with? Are we wine? Are we rum? Are we?
Let's see. I don't know. Hold on. No, I don't. I can't read it. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. I'm a huge fan.
Not hot. So I guess it's Kathleen, and she's definitely looking for hot.
Definitely looking for hot.
Yeah.
So David, chime in if you have any suggestions.
I have one.
Mary.
Well, in France, sometimes in these cold November nights, you go to these outdoor festivals, and they have something called glow wine. You can get an inexpensive bottle, and you put herbs and spices in it, and you heat it up. David, do you have a good wine for that? I enjoy that. I think it's kind of festive. It doesn't have a lot of sugar in it. It's just wine and like some herb and maybe some spices.
I feel like Europe has a lot of interesting drinks that there. When I've visited, it's been quite interesting. But for hot, I mean, you could spike some hot chocolate too. I mean, that's an easy one, right? Yeah. I mean, you could also do bourbon and hazelnut,
Oh, a little frangelico in there. That'd be really good.
I mean, I throw everything in coffee. I mean.
So we should watch out for your roadie cup in the morning. Is that what you're telling me?
If I have a cup of coffee in my hand, it's going to be a real jittery day for me.
So the other thing that I've done for clients in the past, and it actually makes the house smell really good, is doing a mulled wine. The whole thing about that is to don't let it boil, because you'll kick all the alcohol out of the wine, if I understand correctly. But you can get the herbs and the spices, and you can do orange and cloves and all sorts of stuff. And then add in the red wine and just get it up to warm. And then that's a really, really nice thing to share with people.
Right. There was an earlier question, Reed, here about individual Cornish heads would be a nice option.
Oh yeah, they would be. Absolutely. Absolutely. Don't laugh, whoever suggested that. My mother did that one year when there were only 4 of us at the house and she didn't want to cook a turkey. So you could for sure do a Cornish hen, and you could still do a little bit of stuffing and all the amazing sides. Yes, that's a great idea.
All right, so I guess I'll just jump into things, and then maybe we could go over some of the wines that we sort of prepared, and that would go perfect for the Thanksgiving table. Year after year, I mean, doing this, every year we get asked the same question: what do I serve for the holidays? And it's always the same answer. So this is nothing new. I did jot down some notes. I'm one of those, like, I don't like to forget things. So I'm just gonna pretend that I'm not reading, but I'm gonna read a little bit here. So getting asked every single year right about now, which wines for the holiday table. As a wine professional, I'm always happy to help, but funny part is about the holiday dinner table is wine pairing plea for help is that the answer never changes. Pour the same types of wine at every holiday dinner year after year. This is the way to go for the simple reason that tastes vary around the table, yet the food on the plate is essentially the same. There's always some sort of lighter starter, salad, soup, or both. There's a neutral protein, turkey, ham. That's jazzed up with more boldly flavored side dishes, which is your sweet potato, your mac and cheese, the usual. An array of desserts, totally contrasting flavors. So sticking to the tried and true consistent lineup of wines is smart, regardless whether you choose the wine to match the food on the plate or more probably make the more quirky members of the family bearable for a few hours, depending on you know, who you're having over this year. Every time I'm hosting or I go somewhere or I come from a family who collects wine and things, we always start with a bubbly wine right away. Get your palate flowing, it cleans you off, it's fun, it gets people excited. And you don't have to go something expensive. I mean, champagnes could be, you know, upwards of the 50s and above. You could go for a cava, you can go for a prosecco. I prefer cava over prosecco as it's drier and produced method traditional, very similar to Champagne region. And it's also a quarter of the price. You can get a decent one for 14 bucks and you're in good shape. And they all provide the same advantages, right? You don't have to overspend on champagne. So you could also do small pours, right? So you don't have to sit there and pour, you know, wine bottle after wine bottle, depending on your group. You could, you know, conserve a little bit. It also tends to be the #1 drinking holiday in the country, as it has surpassed New Year's a few years ago, because no one has anything to do, and there's also football on. So, okay. Also, carbon dioxide helps the sparkling wines. Carbon dioxide also helps hit the bloodstream a little faster, so you get people a little loosey goosey, a little going. Makes your food taste a little better at the table. Yeah. So before I go into like other options and stuff, I think I'm gonna just throw this over to Mary, if that's cool, Mary. Maybe you and I could do this together, because I mean, all of your wines would be perfect for a table this time of year and through into Christmas too, in my opinion. You know, we've just been working together, you know, a couple months now, and you know, I think our clientels have really taken on to what you're doing here. So maybe you could take it here a little bit, and then I could jump back.
Sure.
You. I mean, I have more, but I think it's a good time. As we
So
get
much
into the
to
first
talk about.
later dish, we could start with one of these wines, you know?
Sure. Well, I just want to say Happy Veterans Day. I
Yeah.
noticed I had no emails coming at me from France today. Usually I have 15 or 20 emails from France, and it's also Armistice Day, which I just didn't think about, but so I just realized that just tonight. So happy Armistice Day as well. So yeah, so I'm a wine importer. And I have a small distribution company in Connecticut, and we found David and SipStirs happily just a few months ago. My partner drives all around Connecticut and sells our wines. I'm different than most. I'll just real quick intro. I'm different than most importers because my wines are uniformly labeled, and they all look kind of like this. Wait, I can't. Where's the
I
camera?
have every bottle here. I can help you
Oh,
out.
good. Okay. So I have this sort of library like academic tour of the appellation system, the geographical wine labeling system, which I find so fascinating. I'm a complete geek about this stuff. I love the geography. I really don't like the 4 square hit you over the head inexpensive Cabernet or Merlots or whatever is on the market. I think that insults great food. Oh, David's at SipStirs in Darien. Where exactly? You're on like the main street there, right, David? I don't know.
Corbin and Post. Here,
Okay.
I'll just send the whole thing here.
Yeah. So as Patricia read in the intro, I don't think you have to be a big, huge wine specialist to explore the world of wine. I think people drink more on Thanksgiving because it's so fun to explore food and wine around a table with friends or family, even if it's only 5 people. And I think that instead of, you drink a couple glasses of champagne on New Year's, I love to eat and drink together. And I think there's an art form to it. I hear people say things like, I'm a red person. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. I mean, everyone to each their own. But at the same time, the progression of flavors and textures and tastes in a great meal. I mean, I used to live in in the Loire Valley in France, and we would take like 4 hours at lunch every Sunday when nobody wanted to get up. And it was just so fun to, the next thing we drank, but it wasn't really heavy drinking. It was just, we would slowly, explore different flavors over maybe 6-7 courses of food. So yeah, and no one's fat in France. So it's like, there's something you're doing right.
Mary, what about the anything but Chard folks?
Oh, right. I love Chardonnay when it comes from places like Chablis. I'm really obsessed with a great Chablis. So I don't have any rules. I just people say, what's your favorite? I make like 16 wines and I have no favorite. That would be like so boring to drink the same thing over and over in the same equation over and over and over. I mean, there's like a Burger King down the street for that kind of eating and drinking. So that said, I have a couple of wines that we selected, and David has all the bottles in front of him. I believe in a level of affordability in the like the $20-ish price point. I think that's fine. I mean, if you're a big spender, I would definitely drink a Brunello di Montalcino from the 90s with my turkey, but I'm on a little bit of a budget. So I go out for 25 years. I've been going out and blind tasting and finding great wineries that I could work with and import. And so I bring those to market and I uniformly label them. So they're easy to find. So that's one of them. Okay. So do you want me to just go through the list of things that we picked out for Thanksgiving? Should I stop? I get really excited to talk about this.
Yeah, I see that. I mean, I want you to talk about your wines. I guess we could talk just really quickly about some of the pairing with some of this stuff for holidays. And I've had all these wines. So, yes, I think we should definitely talk about your wine,
Well, we had a selection we picked, but we can also just talk about,
like for instance, like if
pairings.
we're starting out, right,
Yeah.
we're going to start, like Chardonnay is an easy drinking white, right? But like these wines could be a great alternative when you're starting out and, smaller varietals that people may not know, right? So when you're starting out with, your appetizers or something like a salad or a soup, what are we drinking?
Yeah. Well, I like the bubbles for like a palate opener. So when you're standing around and you're having an hors d'oeuvre or something, some bites come out of the oven. I think it's really nice to have something that livens up your senses. So that's so nice with bubbles or a really high acid wine. I love good acidity. I really like things like Ceccolino or, high acid, but not tropical. The wines that use the aromatic yeast technique to make them jump out of the glass and taste like tropical fruit salad. I don't think that I would recommend that. Something really lean and mineral and acidic and mouth-watering is exactly how you want to start your meal. And I love doing that. The two whites that we selected tonight are a little heavier. So we selected an Anjou Blanc and a Gaillac Perlet, which are both pretty nerdy as far as wines go. I mean, the Anjou Blanc is less so. And that is a Chenin Blanc that I do. It's actually a blend of Chenin from two very different soil types. One is slate and the other is limestone. And then after we ferment in different tanks, I go to France and we hang out and we check out acidity levels and we taste and we blend together the Chenin from different vineyards. And it's such a great. I have one superpower skill.
It sounds really stressful, Mary.
It's fattening, let me tell you, when it's every day. But I'm surviving. I got to 43 now, so I'm surviving it. But anyway, so the Anjou Blanc that we selected, that's about, I think, 22 at SipStirs, is so good for like first entry course seated. You could do aperitif. I think it's just a little rich for that. So I would definitely start, however you go into the meal, which is probably a lighter dish or a salad or something fresher And so I would do that. And then we have a Gaillac, that's pretty geeky. It's a wine from the southwest of France. It's super ancient. It harkens to the Gallic people. You know, they've been making wine there for a really long time. Yeah, it has a lazy bubble, and it actually finishes fermentation in the bottle because they chill it down at the end of fermentation, bottle it, warm it back up, and it finishes the fermentation. So it has the tiniest little bubble. That's called method ancestral, but most method ancestrals are fully fermented in the bottle, and that's the hipsters, the SipStirs call them pétillant naturel. So this is a kind of quasi pet nat, but it's called Perle. And this is a little geekier. The grape is Mozac and Muscadel, and Mozac's been cultivated there for a zillion years, and big corporate wants to go farm, bulldoze that out of there and plant Sauvignon Blanc and Chardonnay. And I'm like, no. We can make a go at the Mozac. Let's keep the indigenous, interesting flavors. I love wine because I love the difference. I don't like, as I said, I don't like repeating myself every day when I eat. And I just think this fruit that comes out of the earth, if you don't manipulate it too much, you get so many interesting flavors. It's like a gift from the divine, and this is one of them. So those are the whites we picked.
Can I ask you a quick question? Just are there any particular herbs or spices or seasonings that you would not recommend pairing these wines with on a first course? I'm only asking because I know that there's certain things that don't. Like I often do a ginger soup, a ginger butternut squash soup as a starter. Would these wines be appropriate with that because the ginger is so forward?
Right. Well, I think these are both pretty good with that because they're both pretty rich.
Mm-hmm.
And on the Gaillac, the residual sugar is 2.5 grams per liter, which is pretty low for, your average. It's not a sweet wine per se, but it's rich enough to handle something. That sounds like a nice, both of these would go with a nice sort of rich soup, I love the idea of that ginger and squash.
Yeah,
so you said squash, right?
It's a fun one. It's a fun one. And again, it's like a little
perfect pairing. Wait a minute.
Little twist.
Yeah.
David, I'll bring you some.
You're definitely sending that recipe, right? I do want to note we did the
the best thing
No, please. You're way more interested.
Did the Gaillac with?
I
want to hear what you did because I was about to tell you my pairing.
Oh no! I was going to say we did this in our wine club, and it seems to be like a huge hit now. I mean, we love it. I drink this. Natalie, she originally liked it because her name was on the bottle, and then all of a sudden she's like, "Wait a minute, this is really good wine,"
Oh, excellent! Yeah, it comes from a 16th century farm. Same family. It's all biodynamic. They don't use chemicals. It's bee friendly. There's like bunny rabbits and fava beans and all kinds of, it's just the sweetest place on earth. A nice crumbling old farm from a couple 100 years ago or 500 years ago. And they're just really passionate. Also, they don't use any funny yeasts or anything. There's just, everything is just natural from the farm. So I love that. Very low sulfur. Just super well made. My favorite pairing with this wine was I did mushu pork pancakes with the hoisin sauce and the Gaillac with it. Just perfect. It was
because there's a lot of sweetness in hoisin. I mean, there's a lot of sweetness in that. Yeah,
and like scallion.
Interesting. Okay.
You have savory, fat, meat, sweet, and then you have this like rich, so it can handle the flavors, but it's also refreshing and it has a little bite onto it. If you're adventurous with wine, I really highly recommend picking one of these up and trying it out. They're really fun. And I love my Anjou. I don't talk about my Gaillac a lot because people see Gaillac and they're like, what is that? I don't know. I'm moving on.
I feel like I need to take a cooking class and read or something. I'm like, this is really
about. Could you partner it with duck?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
absolutely. If it goes with mushy pork, it would go equally with duck.
Again, somebody suggested Cornish game hens. I'm like, why not duck as, you
Right.
know, as a starter or as a main course for Thanksgiving? I mean, why not? It's a fowl. It fits.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
Okay.
But I'd maybe move into some grippy, high-toned reds as well. I mean, I think that we're
Mary,
in red
excuse
season.
me for
Yep.
interrupting, but Kyle's asking if these wines are good with spicy foods.
Well, yeah, absolutely. In fact, a funny thing I found along the way is that an unoaked, fleshy, grippy red actually works well. Everybody thinks that you need like sweet white wine with spice, which is true. These are not sweet like a German Riesling sweet. But one time I went out for this like kind of, Japanese sushi, and everyone says you have to drink, white Burgundy or champagne with sushi. And we had this old bottle of 70 Le Bon Pinot Noir from Burgundy. And that with sushi was, I couldn't believe it. I always followed the like guidelines, the general understanding of how to eat and drink with Japanese food. And I did something different and it worked out so well. So I'm forever changed on that. I mean, soy sauce, Pinot Noir, grape Burgundy. There's so many interesting things that correspond. But yeah, I mean, certain spice. I mean, if a spice is really, really, really overwhelming, or just really overwhelms the mouth, I would say, yeah, you probably want to drink a nice cold beer with that.
Right.
That's what so yeah, and so we're gonna move to some red. Should I just zip through these 3 reds? We made like a Thanksgiving selection.
Yeah,
and
I had a question here. So a lot of times, right, everybody comes in, they want the Beaujolais Nouveau, and I don't particularly work with that.
We discussed that, I remember.
Big name brand, and but I do like Beaujolais, and Pinot Noir happens to be one of my favorite varietals. Just me, we all have our thing, but so I mean, obviously you have a Beaujolais here on our list. So
Right.
do you stick with that rule of thumb? Eat turkey, eat your Thanksgiving dinner with Beaujolais. What's your opinion on that? Just so you can compare some notes here with me.
I don't have much of an opinion. No, I'm just kidding. I have a ton of opinions on that.
Don't really know about that.
Let's first of all, Beaujolais Nouveau and Beaujolais Village are really different wines. It's one of the areas in France where you have to be conscious of the word village. I think it's the most important of all the areas where you have a village. For example, Anjou as a village, not as important. In Beaujolais, if it's not village, it's cute. I love the good cat. Missed mine. I'm in a hotel right now. If it's not village, it's grown in sand, and those can be really nice and fun and fleshy. And I think those wines are way more summery. I like a good Nouveau, but only the best. So like, as I think I mentioned when I came in the store, Jean-Paul Brun makes a fabulous Nouveau. But most Nouveaux are kind of just chill them down, soda poppy. If you're out by that fire pit and you're just kind of knocking some back, that might be a good wine. If you're eating a great meal, I don't think you should discount Beaujolais Village, because there's so much minerality. Mine is very classically made. It's not made with carbonic maceration, so it's quite Burgundian in that sense. You have high acid, you have tannin, you have a ton of minerality. It's grippy, it's deep and dense. I mean, it has all the things that would really both complement, make your mouth water, especially a rich turkey, a dark meat, a great stuffing. I do an oyster stuffing, and I just think that like that kind of mineral. I don't think you should have a big oaky cab or anything with the turkey. I just think it wouldn't do it justice. So I wouldn't discount Beaujolais Village. I hope people come back to that, those wines, but it's important people understand that distinction because they're really different. I wish there was a different word for it. What's that?
It's really tasty.
Isn't it good?
It's
It's
really
working really well right now. It's the
Really
2018.
good. I
When
was
I
like,
first
is it just
read
showing
it, it was
well?
awesome.
Is this like, maybe I had a glass already and it's like that other third glass, but I mean, it's good. No, it really is.
David, I'll be picking up my box of these ones on Friday. I just want to let you know.
Oh,
it's
good,
showing
okay.
really well. It really is. And it smells
Nice.
delicious. So it's not like real stinky, like sometimes you get that, for me at least. All right, so where do you want to move to?
Yeah, it's
after
nice and clean. She
Yeah,
does this is, well, I think we said the Bouzet that's in the box. That's a perfect place to go. Again, no one's heard of Bouzet. I get it. Bouzet and Bordeaux have everything in common because they're the same. It's the same limestone crest. It's the same geological limestone formation. And let me know if my
Mary,
internet. I just got your internet is. No, so if you go on my website, and I do a lot of Instagramming, so if Mary Taylor Wine, but mt.wine is my website, and the first thing you see is my tagline is think outside the grape.
Okay.
I only, no matter what, bottle according to the place. I put the grape on the back.
Okay.
And I put a little map to show you where you are. And I'm trying to like simplify, dumb it down, but all of the appellations I choose most of them are kind of sophisticated. So I don't do like a Côte de Rhône. I do a Bordeaux. So Bouzet is an appellation. An appellation, if for people that don't know, is a legal geographic delineation. So it's an area. You might, if you read the New Yorker, there's always an ad in the back that says Champagne is only from Champagne. Don't believe the not Champagne champagnes. There's a whole story behind that. I could go on forever. But Bouzet is just an appellation near Bordeaux. It's on the other side of that tax line when England owned Aquitaine and blah, blah, blah. So people haven't heard of Bouzet, but it's very similar. It has all the characteristics. This is mostly Merlot and a little Cabernet Sauvignon, maybe 20%. Tiny biodynamic farmer. Wonderful. He has a couple of beautiful black cats too. So as I do.
Yeah, there are two in my house. You've only seen one.
Okay, I'm a 2-cat house too. But I love, so Bouzet is also not very well known because most of the grapes get sent to the local co-op, and in Paris, most apartments have a box of Bouzet wine in the fridge. Tons of Bouzet is consumed in France. Very little is exported. This is one of the only independent estates in Bouzet. Estate is a kind of an overshot because it's like one guy and a bunch of tanks, and he's working organically. But this wine is it's Merlot and Cab, but it has no oak. And I know that's controversial. Also, my Bordeaux has no oak. I just don't believe in it. I use oak. You'll see the next wine I talk about does have some oak. But there's so much there in this wine, and I don't want to mask it with any makeup. And it's a wine to drink young. This is 2016. It's perfectly aged. It'll go for another year. I wouldn't keep it in the cellar past that much longer, past a year or so. What do you think, David, of that? The Bouzet?
Yeah, I'm a fan of big wines, and it's good. I've had it a number of times now. Honestly, I'm a big fan of what you're doing, So listen, we're here to support you. I think keep on keeping on, Really.
Watch out, I'll have 100 wines before you know.
Well, I had met Nicole, who's your distributor prior to meeting you. And
Right.
I just kind of hit it off. And I mean, then I met you and your name's on the bottle. I felt like, pretty cool.
I didn't know what else to call it. I just put my name on the bottle.
Well, I want to just show this one I spilled a little. This is the next one you're about to talk about, the last one. But Mary has her signature on every bottle.
Yeah.
Mary, that says a lot about the integrity and what you put into the wines. I mean, people don't put their
Thank
names
you.
on things unless they're willing to stand behind it.
Totally. You're the real
That's
deal.
really cool.
Well, I started as a cheesemonger in the Concord, Massachusetts cheese shop in '92. And I got really interested in cheese. And if you think about cheese, there's three inputs. It's cow, sheep, and goat.
Mhm.
But like just cow cheese itself, Americans can probably say 50 kinds of cow cheese. Everyone knows like Emmentaler and Camembert, and yet with
Cheddar.
wine, nobody can go beyond the input. And I figured out why. I took like all these years to figure out why was wine so confounding when I was so obsessed with it. But I had already learned to think about the appellation system with cheese and olives and salts. There's so many different like codifications and rules in Europe about how you can refer to things. And I found out that prohibition in the 20s erased our fine dining culture. And that's what, so alcohol-free restaurants became like the family-friendly lunch counter type thing. So that's how like McDonald's showed up. And so like all the fine dining French restaurants in New York City and all that stuff kind of faded away because they couldn't make any profit. But there was like a handful of powerful grape growers, mostly on the West Coast, that were still supplying the churches for sacramental wine. And when prohibition was repealed, they had more demand that they could possibly imagine. I mean, the demand for you would have, become a king, David. So they decided to get together and make it very simple. Let's just call it by the grape. And they simplified and thereby commoditized or commodified wine down to its input and got rid of like all of the 5,000 years of romance that the Europeans had built. And so I'm here to save us from that horrible phenomenon.
Hey, Mary, have you gone by Darien cheese when you were in Darien?
No, not yet. And I
You
just
gotta
moved
talk
to
to Ken.
Connecticut.
You got to talk to Ken. He's amazing.
I'd love to.
I'll go with you. He's amazing.
I'm
cheese
looking for some
purveyor.
great goat. I love goat cheese from the Cher River. So
Yeah,
like the
he's-
Seltzer Cher.
He'll get you. If he doesn't have it, he's the guy that you and him will get along like.
Okay. Don't
He's a-
tell him I'm importing some cheeses and some foie
No,
gras.
I won't. I do have a question. I was doing a little homework here, and my French talking isn't very up to par and whatever. So correct me if I'm wrong. Just for some food pairings with the bouzet.
Yeah,
Cassoulet is a slow simmered stew of sausage.
I'd be careful with that one.
Okay.
They make fun of the Americans because everybody who goes to Toulouse has to have a cassoulet, and they're ill for the whole night. Cassoulet you eat once per year. Yeah.
Okay,
It's very
like
rich.
is
Very.
from the region? Is it like a stew beef?
Where the region we're in is Southwest. Cassoulet is the dish of Toulouse, which is also in the Southwest.
Okay.
But bouzet itself has a lot more in common with Bordeaux. So
Okay.
think of the dishes.
Red meats and things like that.
Yeah, I mean it's not the biggest wine in the world. I mean, I think you could do game just fine. I think game is perfect. If I was gonna do, I don't know, like a rich, like anything stewed, I would actually do the next wine, the Costière de Nîmes, which is I was in Nashville Lifestyles magazine and they said, Mary Taylor makes a great Côte de Rhône from Costière de Nîmes. And I was like, oh, so close.
Whoa.
Right. No, it's okay. It's okay. Everybody, I mean, the thing is like, I railed against elitism in wine. I used to work for the, Sotheby's wine department, and I was all these fancy, like high-end wine jobs. And I just thought, let's make it less elitist and more like accessible to people like me,
People who like to drink. Yes.
a working girl, like when I was 25, I didn't know how to buy wine, and I would have bought a lot of my wines because they would have been affordable to me at the time. And but yeah, no, I mean, it's pairings. I'm not like a perfect pairing person, but the bouzet, yeah, for sure, game. The Beaujolais has so much acidity that you could pair with like as we said, the earlier dishes you could do, I said, like any of the things, the Gaiac and the Beaujolais kind of overlap because there's a lot of acidity in both. But game, birds, things like that level of meat, pork tenderloin, pork roast, I don't know, leftover, I don't I like soup dumplings. I eat a lot of soup dumplings.
Those are great.
I'm wondering if you did, so I'm just fast forwarding like into December holidays, like if you did a beef Wellington or if you did something that has that fatty richness to it, do you think these wines would partner well with that as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Bouzet would do very well with that. I would maybe do something bolder with the beef Wellington.
Okay.
Like maybe a third growth Bordeaux or something with a little bit more density and structure and maybe some oak and some age. I might not recommend. I mean, I love my Bouzet, but it's a wine to just enjoy. It's fleshy, it's drinkable, it's something great to pass around the table. If you spend several days making like this beef red meat dish, you might go to SipStirs, and I mean they have a super selection of like a bigger, deeper. I keep talking about Brunello. I'm just in this Brunello phase.
You have a craving, apparently.
I do have some Brunello. I love Brunello too.
Yeah.
Just to fast forward here. So well, just to finish out with the Bouzet for a second, we're talking, what's the ratio on Cab to Merlot on that? Was it 80-20?
Yeah, it's 80-20, but you have to kind of erase your, like, most people know Blackstone Merlot, and that's what Merlot is. And this is not that. This has a lot of sort of floral, elegance, lighter touch, really light on its feet. So food and this go very well. Good acidity, but no, it's not a dense wine. And in fact, I would say if I was in a blind tasting, I might think it was from the east side of France. Maybe something like not a Syrah from the Côte Rôtie, because that's a extremely unique thing, but just it has a lighter touch. It has a lighter body than you would expect. Maybe like a Cab Franc from the north. It could be like that. But it's very Bouzet-esque, even though, what is that? There's so much to discover. I made my father dinner. He's an old English professor. And I said, here's this red wine. And he was enjoying it. And I said, Dad, if I told you this was a Ripasso from near Venice, this red wine, would that change your experience of the dinner? And he said, oh my goodness, absolutely. That would be so romantic. And I'm like, well, that's what you're drinking. And he's like, wow, that really does tie something together. Like, it's not just another red wine in the glass. It's like you took that extra time to like pick something that comes from a place and has a story. And if you want to explore that, you pop out the wine book and start reading about it and talking about it. So much fun. There's so much to do in wine. I think there's, the whole world of wine out there, but Europe especially. Sorry, California, they get mad at me. Yeah. I'm an old worldist. What's that?
I think Pat was going to say something.
I was. What about dessert? Everybody's, traditionally serves more of a sparkling wine or an Yquem or something, but is there anything that's a little bit less traditional but interesting?
I'm happy to give you my controversial opinion on that. David, do you want to jump in?
I'm a big fan of like bourbons. I drink bourbon whenever, and especially after dinner, I'm like, just give me a bourbon. But brown spirits and things like that. I mean, port's obviously traditional.
Yes.
You can go with your Frangelica and your 43s and your liqueurs.
I would throw rye into it.
You got family. You just had a big dinner. Have a cocktail. Have a drink. That's me. But I mean, most people are traditional. You're right. Well, we got to serve a port. We're doing this sit-down thing, which is fine. But do a Tawny port. Do something inexpensive. Don't kill yourself on a vintage port for the show. You can that would be me, is doing it more simplified. You do a sweet Riesling, and
David, what about sherries?
I like sherries, but they're not everybody's cup of tea.
Mhm.
I don't sell a lot of sherry. I don't even know if I have a bottle in the store at the moment, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah, and that's just because that's more for me, that's a little more traditional. I'm a brown spirit guy, you know, and the sherry, I just, I don't know. Go to someone. There's other places that sell sherry stuff. Somebody
No,
called.
I was just
You know what?
curious because
Somebody called. Yeah. Go ahead.
no, to me, there's something that they go, to me, this is just my opinion, they go nicely with something that's overly sweet because they don't contribute more sweetness.
Right.
And again, they have a little bit more difficult flavor profile. So you're not just gonna like slam it down at the end of a meal. So I was just curious if you had an opinion about them.
Yeah, I used to sell those when I was on the supply side. That whole German lineup. I can't even remember because it was so hard for me to. It was one of the harder products in my book at the time. Like
Right.
all those different flavor schnapses or from Germany. I can't even think of it right now. Mary, you shaking your head. You know what I'm talking about, right? Like there's.
You mean what is that restaurant in New York? You know, all you mean like the Swedish
No,
like
they're like really
Aqua?
German. And
What is-
so- I don't know if they're schnapps.
Are you thinking of like aquavit?
aquavit? Thank you. Things like
Sure.
that.
That's a
If-
dish, isn't it?
Yeah. So can I just have I feel
Yeah,
like
go. You have to tell us what you're drinking. I hear you.
well, I'm bursting at the seams with this
Go.
question. because-
Go. I was going to tell another story, but you go first.
All right, real quick. I controversially do not believe the word dessert and wine belong in the same sentence. I don't think you should ever drink champagne after dinner. I think it's a pre-dinner drink. I think Chateau Yquem is wasted after dinner. I think it is a savory drink. I think you could have a obviously foie gras or whatever, but you could have a rich salty anything, a rillette or whatnot, and enjoy an Yquem. I don't think that after you've had your red wine and your cheese, if you're French or whatever, if you finish dinner and you move to dessert, I think that's a moment where you aren't drinking for a second. You're enjoying just the sweetness of the dessert. Maybe you have a tea. And then I agree with David, you move to the bourbon. I would
Brown liquors.
I would do cognac at the end. And no, I don't really know enough about how to drink sherry. I do drink. We used to do an intermezzo, a Madeira. We do like a mushroom soup mid-course. If you have like a 7-course dinner, you do something mid-course, totally changes the palate. You do a Madeira with like a mushroom soup or something. But I don't recommend a sweet wine after dinner. I don't necessarily. I mean, maybe port. It's a different culture though. That's not how I learned to eat and drink. So. Okay, David, you can tell your story.
The story I was going to say is somebody called today for Calvados, and you know what? It's great.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's the time of year for it. I used to sell it, and I didn't like selling it, so I don't have it in the store, and I should. You know, like there is people who cook a lot with it and still drink it. You know, but it was just another one on that we, to add to the conversation on that.
I love Calvados after dinner. I think
Right.
Calvados and Cognac, Armagnac are kind of all in the same group of interesting things to have post dessert, but not with dessert.
No.
And
That's my thing.
since none of us have anywhere to go, why not just keep it rolling? You can drink post dessert. You can drink 2 hours after dessert.
Right.
Right. I'm honestly looking for the drink I used to sell so I could tell them what it is. I'm looking at my old supplier site. I don't even think they sell it anymore. I'm like,
But I think with sherry, you have the Fino. So Fino would be like an aperitif.
oh yeah.
The Manzanilla is like something you pair with something.
Well, Turn is good to drink for dessert too. That's a very good point.
Yeah.
I was just informed with the text message with somebody on here. They're like, so Turn. I'm like, yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah.
Premier. God, I can't believe I can't think of it. It's a German after dinner drink. It's so harsh. It's like you're drinking gasoline.
It's not Jaeger.
No,
No.
it's like it's so. they're like, this is raspberry, strawberry. There's all these different names for the different flavors.
All
I
right,
drink them,
can
they
we
all
Google this?
Oh, wait, it's
I
something.
drink them, they all taste the same.
Is it Kirsch? Like the
Yes. Yeah.
Kirsch.
Kirsch. Yeah.
Ah.
There's a name for that spirit, and I can't think of it for some reason.
terrible, just terrible.
Right. So like when I was like trying to sell it, they're like, here, sell this. And I'm like, okay, like this is strawberry, cherry. I'm like, they all taste the same to me. I'm like, this is not working. I mean, I like I like a good grappa, right?
Yeah.
For dinner too. I can hang with a good grappa. But
David,
but
if
they're
you-
really bad. Yeah. I see Mary's like, no, but
I
they're
don't like
really-
grappa. Sorry.
so bearable. I remember, I think that was like the first like drink my parents had given me when I was a kid. I was like, they're like, here, you'll never drink again.
If you ever go to Thailand, I highly recommend that you try Lao Khao.
Hmm.
Wow, cow.
Lao Khao. You often see it at, I mean, I was there a long time ago, but you often see it, people drink it out of plastic bags with straws on the train. It's kind of their moonshine, but you can also buy it. They do make it, manufacture it. But it's a very interesting flavor.
I'm trying to
Never had
think. When I was in Germany, I was working for a beer company at the time. They took us to Oktoberfest. I was selling Hofbrau, one of the distilleries,
Yeah.
one of the breweries in the 10. It was quite an experience. I don't know if I could ever do it again. I'm a little older now, but I remember with that story, it's constantly drinking, and they're not the #1 beer consuming per capita. It's actually oh my god, it's next door. It's
Belgium,
no.
Luxembourg,
All right, I'll get to that. I'm blowing a blank. All right.
Sweden.
Austria, Switzerland.
So, but I mean, you wake up, they're just sitting there with, their cocktails, it's beers, it's, it was just crazy. Or like, what is it, beer with Sprite? What are these,
Oh, well, basically shandies. I mean, if you're in Ireland, they call it a shandy.
right. So I was just like, I don't know. I mean, if I go there, I got to get a new liver.
Well, our conversation is definitely taking a southward turn. This has been great. And you guys have all come up with some wonderful ideas. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Don't jump off the bridge. Don't jump off the bridge.
I hope that you will join us again at another time. This has been wonderful.
Yeah.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Are there any other questions that anybody wanted to ask any of them?
Denise did want to, attendee named Denise wanted to suggest, was Underberg one of the wines you were trying to sell, David?
Sure. I've sold Underberg before. They're these little 2-ounce shots. And then when I previously took it over the store, I depleted some of that older inventory of them. They're good. They're definitely, they open you up. They make you feel better when you're full. I had one guy that loved them, but he was, I want to say he's European. So yeah, it would make sense. Mary, have you ever had Underberg?
No, never.
Oh.
I don't really play around in the spirit world. I tend to stay in the wine world.
The spirit
where I
I like that, given that I know you have black cats. That's perfect. You don't play around in the spirit world.
Well, yeah.
I'm
Mary's a
fairly
purist.
wine.
And Pat.
Well, I
thank
like
you.
beer. I do like beer, and I love Munich, and I love Hofbrau, and I think
Yeah.
that's all really fun, delicious. But I don't really do spirits. I think, one cognac and I'm going to bed.
Right. Pat, thank you for having us and the library for, thinking of us here.
This has been wonderful. Thank you all. And I think that everybody will be sending you, all the attendees, the list of Reed's suggestions and David and Mary's wine suggestions. So
Great.
they'll be coming on your email.
I'm just putting my little handle there, and if you need any wine, David has all of the wines we talked about. But you can certainly follow. I talk about wine all day long. That's what I do.
Okay.
I just gave you a follow, Mary. I'm excited to see what you do.
Okay, awesome. Thanks.
Mary, thank you very much. And same again.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
so much for your suggestions.
And